video. Now today we're going to look at what we can expect for the NFP using what's known as a regression analysis. Now regression analysis is basically using historical data to make a future decision or a future outcome. Now if you're new to the channel, a sub would be appreciated, as you'll probably learn a lot here today as well. Now just before we get started, there's one thing that you need to keep in mind, that we are going to look at the data that weighs more to the side that we could see the NFP being negative today. So basically from where I'm sitting, the NFP should be, the outcomes should be negative based off the data that I was able to collect. But that doesn't stop Jerome Powell from coming up with his own numbers as well. So just keep that in mind as we go through the video as well. Now, before we get started, the first thing that we are going to speak about is there's different things that we are going to look at. Now, there's two things. Firstly, we're going to look at the United States initial job claims, and I'll explain to you what that is in detail. And we're going to look at the United States ADP employment change, and I'll explain to you what that is as well, and how we're going to utilize and use this information to determine what the outcome of the NFP is going to be. Now, we're going to start with the with the United States ADP. Now, the United States ADP is a national employment report which measures the monthly change in non-farm private employment based on the payroll data. Approximately 400,000 US business clients that release 2 days ahead of the government data. So it's basically a payroll company that collects data of people that has been registered onto the payroll for that given month, which gives you an indication in terms of how many people were hired and how many new people were hired onto the payroll system. Now we're going to look at the numbers for March, and we're going to compare that with April. Now the NFP data coming out for May today is going to be the data for April, so it's last month's data. So remember, the NFP data for today is not May's data, that is April's data. So they will tell us how many new jobs were added in April. Now here we can firstly see that based off the last report, there was 479 new members or new people, or 479k new members added onto the payroll system. For April there was only 247. Okay, so that kind of gives us an indication that there was less people that was added to the payroll system for the month of April, which is telling us that the job growth or the employment rate for last month was not as high as it was the previous month there as well. Now then the next thing we are going to have a look at very quickly is one of the most important things here as well. Now this plays an important part because why? It helps us indicate how many people were actually employed or how many new people got jobs. But I've said it before and I will say it again. So we obviously saw last month, and I'm not sure if it happened last month, but I think companies had laid off a lot of people in April. And I'll tell you why I say so. When Netflix announced their Q1 earnings for the year of 2022, what happened was they knew that the company was not doing as good as what they were supposed to. So they obviously started laying off people in April already. Then some of those people probably lost their jobs as well. When Jerome Powell testified in front of Congress, when the interest rate were hiked at a half a basis point, they said that they are going to get inflation down, but a lot of people or some people is going to feel the pain. Now that could mean one of two things: feel the pain that interest rates is going to skyrocket to a point where people aren't able to afford or to pay their loans, or it could mean that people are going to lose their job because why? Like I've said many times before, as the excuse me, as the dollar index increased due to high interest rates, the stock market loses value, and as a result of that, people will then start losing their jobs there as well. Now next thing we are going to look at is the United Jobs initial claims, and I quickly just want to cover this report from Reuters. It says here the US weekly report, jobless claims rise, productivity plunges at the fastest pace in 74 years. So not only were the jobless claims listed was a lot higher, so more people filed for unemployment, but the productivity also dropped to 7.5% in the first quarter. Now, what this tells us here, ladies and gentlemen, this basically tells us how many people had filed for unemployment funds. Now, you can see here, based off May, we had 100, though, based off March, 181,000 people filed for unemployment. We had a positive NFP last month for that employment, but last month we can see that 200,000 people had now filed for unemployment claims. That means more people had lost their jobs in the month of April to be able to qualify or to actually file for the unemployment claims. So that means more people had now lost their jobs there as well. Now, if you combine this two data, because this is basically what makes up the NFP, because the NFP is basically, how many people were added to, how many new jobs were created, because the idea is obviously to bring the unemployment down, and the only way to bring unemployment down is to recruit more people. And the only way you're going to bring the unemployment down is if if these numbers keeps reducing, but these numbers has now seen a massive skyrocket. That this needs to go up, and this unfortunately has to go down. But we have it vice versa this month, because last month we had this high when we had this low. This month we have this low and we have this high. So that tells us we had a good NFP last month. The minds were blown. Unfortunately, I do not see the NFP coming through with good data for this month here as well, which is definitely going to see the dollar index probably making that correction that is required for this heavily overextended market that we currently have over years. So we'll probably see a correction on the dollar index, but we know that the dollar index will recover very, 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 very well. So that is my overlooked or my forecast for the NFP. If you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Also share the video with other people that that would like to know what the outcome for the NFP today is going to be. I want to say thank you so much to all my loyal viewers and supporters. Thank you for your time, and as always, cheers for years and enjoy the weekend.